Now, in Canada, those truckies protests are dragging on and creating havoc in the capital, Ottawa, and also right across the country because of blockades on crucial transport crossings to the US. The protests are largely against vaccine mandates. Sound familiar? They've also spread to broadly contest all kinds of pandemic restrictions and rules, just like our protests here, only a lot more strident. Essentially, they're demanding that Canada move beyond the pandemic emergency, as many countries are now doing in Europe. Instead of giving any ground, though, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is imposing emergency powers to try to break up the protests.
I want to be very clear. The scope of these measures will be time-limited, geographically targeted, as well as reasonable and proportionate to the threats they are meant to address. We cannot and will not allow illegal and dangerous activities to continue.
Such a strong man, isn't he? The great irony here is that the protesters want the country, of course, to open up, to end the restrictions, to allow people to go about their business again. But Trudeau is angry that the protests are blockading cities and preventing essential services carrying on. So he wants to dismantle the freedom protests so he can get back to imposing his restrictions. Wouldn't it make more sense just to embrace freedom and watch the protesters go home? Let me bring in the blogger to the nation, columnist with the Daily Telegraph, Tim Blair. Thanks for joining us, Tim. Honestly, it's a contest between who's going to do more to shut down the country.
Well, there's an additional element to it now. Recently, I saw on online there was a counter-protest, and the counter-protesters thought they'd won by blocking the trucks in with their cars. And they didn't realise, I think, that they just joined the convoy. They joined the protest. So, they're not very bright, some people. But Justin Trudeau has handled this so inexpertly, so incredibly poorly. From the outset, he described the protesters as Nazis, racists, homophobes, transphobes, Islamophobes. He went through the whole phobe dictionary in just one tweet. And then, of course, you paint yourself into a corner when that's your opening gambit. You're not exactly going to be able to discuss things with a non-hostile audience. And he's gone straight from that to imposing now emergency laws that haven't been imposed in 50 years. In fact, the last Canadian Prime Minister who did that was also Trudeau, Pierre Trudeau. And he's done that without even attempting to communicate with these people and hear them out. It's an extraordinary way to attempt to run a country.